Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Mary Claire Haver, and I am a board-certified OB-GYN and the creator and founder of the Galveston Diet. And feel free to share this. I'm coming live. I've done some analysis of some of the medical data, and I'm here to talk to you about 7 reasons why sugar is bad for you, according to the latest medical data out there. So when I talk about sugar, I am talking about added sugars in food, not naturally occurring sugar that might be in a whole fruit or vegetable. I mean, most of our fruits and vegetables contain naturally occurring amounts of sugar in different forms. And so I'm not talking about that. It's very, very different than things that are artificially added to enhance the flavor of a product. And when the FDA regulates that when you flip over and look at the packaging and the ingredients of things, you can see added sugars. So specifically, some of the bad actors are the fructose that is added in, and we're going to kind of get down in the nitty gritty of that fructose that is added in a lot of the drinks, the high fructose corn syrup. So very, very different than the fructose that's in a berry. Okay, so if you eat a raspberry, a whole fruit containing fructose, you get so much more than just the fructose. You are getting the carbohydrate that you need for energy, but you are also getting fiber, and you're getting micronutrients. You're getting anthocyanins, which are natural antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. So the fructose that is in there is like packaged in this beautiful balance of micronutrients, fiber, and things that your body so desperately needs. So when we talk about the bad actors of sugar, it is the sugar that is extracted from other sources and then added back into processed foods or drinks. Okay. So there's 7 things I'm going to talk to you about today, like medical reasons why, and I'm going to go through some of the science, and some of it gets pretty nitty gritty. So put your thinking caps on, why these added sugars are so bad for you medically. So what are the top 7 things? Number 1, it's going to be, no surprise here, obesity. Number 2, increased diets of added sugars also increase the speed of cellular aging. It makes you go much faster into the aging process. Number 3, it drains your energy. Number 4, it increases the risk of some really scary diseases, including diabetes and heart disease, and we'll talk about those. Number 5, it increases the skin aging process. So those of you like me who are really into anti-aging and like a diet with decreased added sugars is a great way for you to avoid some of the wrinkles. And number 6, it increases the risk of depression. And number 7, it increases the risk of adult acne. So, all right, let's start from the beginning. Let's go to number 1. So weight gain and obesity. So there are numerous studies out there that talk about how increased added sugars in your diet are a very high risk factor for obesity. There's something really interesting about leptin. So leptin and ghrelin are the hunger and satiety hormones. You may have heard about them, but some of you may not have. So it is your body's hormonal triggers that say I'm full or I'm hungry. It gives your body chemical signaling so that it tells you to stop eating, or you're not hungry, get away from the table, or I'm starving. Okay, I need to eat now. Leptin is the satiety hormone, and it is exquisitely sensitive to added sugars in your diet, especially fructose. And so when you have a diet that is higher in sugars, we find leptin resistance. So it takes increasing levels of the leptin hormone for your body to get the signal that you're hungry. So if you're drinking a lot of sugary beverages, those sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, that leptin kind of gets shut down. So you're drinking. You're getting plenty of sugar in your system, obviously, but you're never getting the signal to stop eating. Or to stop drinking the beverage, that you're full, that your energy level, you've gotten enough carbohydrates in your body to fulfill your bodily needs. I'm fascinated by the leptin ghrelin play in the body. It's not anything that we were really taught in medical school. It's kind of a newer finding. Let's see. And so in addition, high consumption of sugary beverages has also been specifically linked to an increase in visceral fat. So there's kind of two, we've heard about brown fat and white fat, and but when we, especially in middle age, and we talk about it a lot in Galveston Diet, there's something that when we have the belly fat, centripetal fat that kind of shows up in midlife for a lot of us that never had it before, that fat itself becomes an endocrine organ, and it pumps out inflammatory hormones, inflammatory mediators, and it starts messing a lot with the leptin ghrelin balance in your body. Okay, so that was number one. Number two, increases the speed of cellular aging. So we have chromosomes, right? So inside of our cells, inside of the nucleus is all the genetic material in our body, or most of it, in the form of DNA. And so when we unravel that, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Hopefully you guys, I'm shaking out some apples out of the trees here. So at the end of each chromosome is something called a telomere. And those telomeres are what keeps the stability of the chromosome intact. It is a natural aging process. It is absolutely normal that those telomeres shorten as we age. We can slow that process down with good nutrition choices. We can speed that process up with poor nutrition choices. And high sugar diets are linked to rapidly shortening telomeres. So our cells age faster. They break down faster, and we end up aging much, much faster than we would had we had a more nutritious diet. Okay? So you live longer and you live healthier. It's not just living longer if your quality of life is terrible, okay? You live longer with a better quality of life if your telomeres stay as long as possible as they could, okay? Hopefully I didn't talk too fast through that one. I tend to talk really fast. Number three, what does sugar do? It drains your energy. You guys, when you're eating these diets high in processed and added sugars, you are causing massive fluctuations in your sugar and your insulin levels in the body, and that wears us down. So we've all had sugar highs. We were kids, we're eating chocolate and whatever, and we feel so good and we're crazy, and then the insulin levels spike and we have a crash, and we end up making poor choices. It leads to depression. I'll talk about that in a minute, but your energy gets sapped, you're drained, you're tired and fatigued, and you probably leads to making more poor choices in your body. Number four, so get ready. We're going to talk about some very specific diseases that are linked to diets high in processed and added sugars. Of course, type 2 diabetes, that is the highest. It's one of the highest risk factors for developing type 2 diabetes is age and increased diet of processed sugars. Insulin, okay, we all talk about insulin. It's a hormone that regulates your blood sugar levels. Your pancreas sits around and constantly samples your blood sugar. When it hits a certain level of high, it gives insulin. It triggers the pancreas to release more insulin. Insulin is the key that unlocks the door so that sugars, glucose can go inside the cells for normal body processes, okay? So there's a study that came out examining 175 countries and the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Your risk of diabetes increased 1.1%, and this is across multiple nations. So this is a human thing. It's not specifically linked to a cultural thing. For every 150 calories consumed a day, so one soda via added sugar, like one can of soda, increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 1.1%. I thought that was fascinating. So if you think someone's getting those giant 44 ounce, so the cans are 12 ounces. So if you're, basically increasing your risk of diabetes 4% by drinking those sodas, and then you're adding sugar in the diet through cookies, cake, crackers, eating out of the vending machines, eating convenience, processed foods, breads with added sugars, all of it. I mean, they're getting tremendous amounts of added sugars, and they're just continually increasing that risk of type 2 diabetes. Also, heart disease. Heart disease is still the number one killer worldwide. High sugar diets associated, of course, with obesity, increased inflammation, as I've talked about ad nauseum and other talks, elevated triglycerides, high blood pressure, and elevated blood sugar levels, all of which are risk factors of developing heart disease. A great example, I love this, is, and let me look at my notes. In 2014, there was a study that analyzed the health data of 30,000 adults, and they compared the average percent of calories from added sugar. Okay, so they just looked at diet and what are the macros, specifically the macros for them are the added sugar, okay? And what they found was those whose added sugar consumption was 17 to 21% of their total calories had a 38% greater risk of dying from heart disease when compared to those who consumed 8% or less. of their total calories from added sugars. So if you are not tracking your food intake, if you haven't downloaded one of those apps, if you don't pay attention to how much added sugar is in your diet, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. And I tell you, once you start tracking, it is going to blow your mind. Okay, sorry, someone was texting me a comment, complimenting my earrings. It was really sweet. Okay, fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty steatosis, non-alcoholic fatty liver. Here's the kicker: fructose. Fructose is added in so many things. High fructose corn syrup. It is in cookies, cakes, crackers, and especially the sodas, okay? High fructose corn syrup. Fructose has to be processed in the liver. It cannot go straight to the cells. It is 100% goes to the liver. And it is liver takes the fructose and creates something called glycogen. And glycogen is our storage carbohydrates for when we are not eating it. And when our blood sugars drop, then the body goes to the liver and starts extracting the glycogen until it's all gone. And so when the glycogen goes away, then we start burning fat. Okay, so for example, glucose goes straight to the cells. That is like the body's number one way to just pull out the energy from the carbohydrate. Fructose can't do that. The liver only has so much capacity for glycogen. And when it hits that, I'm done, I got enough glycogen, that fructose is immediately turned into fat that is stored in the liver. So if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver, the best thing you can do is decrease the amount of added sugars in your diet. It will save your life, okay? Okay. Number 5, and y'all who know my side gig, I love skincare. I love trying to, stop the aging process as much as possible, not only for my health, but I am a little bit vain too. Increased skin aging and diets high in added sugars, guys. So wrinkles are a natural part of aging. You live long enough, you are going to get a wrinkle. It's okay, all right? However, some people are not super happy with their wrinkles, including me. And poor food choices can speed up that process. Good food choices can slow down that process. Why? Because a diet high in refined carbohydrates and sugar levels leads to the production of the advanced glycation end products. So AGEs are a normal reaction between protein and sugar. And we have excess sugars. We have more of these in glycation end products that are floating around in our bodies. And what we know is that in the dermis of the skin, so this is the epidermis, underneath is the dermis, which is where the wrinkles, what keeps us from having wrinkles is a nice, thick, healthy dermis. Elastin and collagen live there. And that is what creates the tightness and the smoothness of the skin. So the added sugars play a key role in the increase of the AGEs, and the AGEs break down the collagen and elastin, leading to increased wrinkles, laxity, and you not being happy with your appearance. So can you stop the aging process? No. But can you slow it down? Absolutely, with better nutritional choices. So they did a study, of course, Dr. Haver loves her studies, of women ages 40 to 74, and they looked at a diet. They looked at their diet. They looked at consumed carbohydrates, processed carbs, and sugars. And they found that women who were on just eating high processed carbs, high sugar, had more wrinkles than women who were eating lower carbs and higher protein diets. So they just had better skin aging appearance. And there's ways you can measure wrinkles, and they did that in the lab. Number 6, increases your risk of depression. So when we're eating diets high in sugar, we're having massive fluctuations that we talked about in our blood sugar levels. Insulin levels are going up, okay? Our neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals between our nerves. So, nerves are these long things in our brain, and then the chemicals send the signals across, the neurotransmitters. Those can be dysregulated by high sugar diets and by these fluctuations. And so it is well known that a healthier, nutritious diet full of whole foods, whole grains, all of it, has a decreased risk of depression. So if you suffer from depression, you have family members who suffer from depression, you can absolutely help the process of getting a healthier balance of neurotransmitters and stopping the dysregulation by changing your diet, okay? And number 7, the last thing, is adult acne. So when we have high levels and eat foods, high glycemic index, things that raise our blood sugars really high and really fast, it's interesting, our androgen levels go up. So androgen levels are kind of the male hormones, testosterone, and there's lots of others, but I don't want to bore you guys with science. But when the androgen levels go up, our oil levels go up in our skin and inflammation levels go up, all of which leads to adult acne. And there was a pretty cool study that looked at urban versus rural areas. It turns out if you live in a rural area where you do not have access to processed foods and high sugar diet, people in rural areas tend to, not all, but tend to eat a little more whole foods because they just don't have the access. They have to eat out of their refrigerator. And they don't eat out as much. They're not eating as much fast food. The acne levels are much, much, much better in rural areas than they are in these urban areas where diets are super high in processed foods and added sugars. So excess sugar consumption, you guys, hopefully I'm doing this now right before the holidays, and I really want you guys to share this. It has so many health detriments. I'm hoping that as we go into the holidays and we're getting out of our routines and we're doing things not normal and we're surrounded by so many temptations, that you remember my voice, that you remember the things I tell you, and that you make better choices. Remember, so many psychological, besides the obesity, heart disease, acne, aging, all of it linked to increased sugar consumption. I'm hoping this helps you make a better choice. All right, everybody, have a happy holiday season, and Dr. Haver is signing off.